producer of gameplay on League. You might remember me from all those champion roadmaps, but today, for reasons I can't even fathom, they put me in front of a camera again to talk about all of League this time. So buckle up as I dive into some of the champions we have in development. After that, I'm going to pass the metaphorical mic over to Riot Froxon, who is going to talk to you about the recent durability update as well as our plans for preseason. So before we get into the new champions coming up this year, let's take a quick look back at the champions we've released in 2022 so far.
No tiene mala pinta de
First, we
momento,
have the speedy ADC Zeri. Then the girl boss Renata Glass. After that, the Void Empress herself, Belva. And then most recently, the joyful Nila.
Bueno, la salida de Nila es un poco queque. La salida de Nila, si se lo hubieran ahorrado, mejor. Que ese campeón no sirve de nada.
Uter's development has been a long journey, especially since he's been the first VGU that we've done that's had an ultimate skin. We appreciate you all being patient with us on this one, and hopefully the wait has been worth it.
Va a ser una locura.
So in addition to the
Lo de
new
Udir va a ser una
champions
locura.
we've released this year,
Bueno, de hecho ya lo está
we've also
siendo.
been shipping a
Ahora vengo,
lot of
un momentito.
mid-scope updates to various champions, including Janna, Ahri, Swain, Talia, Olaf, and recently Sivir. Because we slowed down the release of new champions, we've had a bit more time to ship smaller updates to champions on the roster that have fallen behind the pack. So the goal of mid-scope updates isn't to reimagine a champion's visuals, theme, or gameplay. That's reserved for VGUs. Instead, we want to freshen up champions that aren't living up to the expectations of the players who love them. We try to strengthen their fantasy even more, rather than reinvent it. So for Swain, we pushed his fantasy of an unkillable frontline mage to the max. And for Ahri, we focused on her fantasy of a mobile mage, rather than the assassin she had become. We saw really great responses to these projects, as well as healthy play rate spikes after their release.
¿Qué tal lo oís? ¿Lo oís bien, chicos?
Given all of this,
¿Lo oís guay?
we want to keep pursuing mid-scope updates, and we already have a few champions we're exploring, including Nico and Syndra. So now
Los campeones, se viene.
projects I've been super
Se viene.
excited to share with you. So later this year, we have a new
Los proyectos
top lane
que emocionan mucho
champion
poder
from
compartir. Más
Shuri,
adelante de este año tendremos
who I
un nuevo
briefly
tanque
mentioned
en
in
la
the last
calle
champion roadmap.
superior.
This new champion will introduce a part of Shurima that we haven't explored yet. The city.
El nuevo campeón presentará una parte de Shurima sin explorar hasta ahora. La ciudad de Inazuma. ¿Cómo? De Inazuma.
Inazuma is an oasis city-state in the southern outskirts of the desert, and unlike the rest of Shurima, they don't bow to Azir. Situated on one of the only water sources for miles, the people of Inazuma had to compete with giant monsters just trying to stay hydrated. It was a hard-fought struggle, but they eventually claimed the oasis as their own and built their society around it. Now, 500 years later, this new champion leads the warriors of Inazuma to hunt those same monsters, using the rare resources they gained to build their infrastructure and weapons. He actually fought one of the largest monsters the desert has ever known, creating his unique Entofos out of its rare regenerating hide. Entofos are huge, blunt weapons that can be used defensively, but at any moment, he can shatter them, revealing carefully crafted blades capable of tearing through any foe in seconds. Okay, fine.
Cállate.
Twist my arm a little bit more, will you? Now keep in mind, the visuals are still a work in progress. What do dragons do? Well, they breathe fire.
¿Cómo?
Asol's new Q allows him to breathe fire.
Hostia, qué
for as long
guapo.
as he has mana to do it. But let's not forget the other thing dragons do: fly. His new W allows him to take to the skies, but this time he doesn't have to walk in a straight line for like ever. He can now fly with the push of a button. But really, let's be honest, he's a dragon, and if there's one thing more iconic
Hostia,
than
eso está
flying
guapo,
or breathing fire, it's flying while breathing fire, which you can do by combining
No te puedo
Q
creer.
and W.
Hostia, eso está muy
So
guapo.
after Aurelion Soul, we have a champion I've been literally dying
Eso
to
está
talk to you
muy
about.
guapo, tío.
One of the things the League community hounds me about constantly is wanting to see more
Gracias.
Darkin.
Gracias, campeones oscuros. Por fin,
throw
tío.
me a freaking bone here.
Un Darkin nuevo,
Believe
tío.
you me, I'm right there with you, barking for some Darkin. Then one night, at around 2:34 a.m., I woke up in a fever sweat, and at that moment, it hit me. I'm on the champions team. If I want more Darkin, I can just talk to the team about it. And gosh dang it, I did just that.
Un nuevo Darkin,
was like,
gente.
heck yeah, we want more Darkin as well. We love Darkin. So yeah, long story short, we're making a new
Habéis estado haciendo campeones infantiles. Lo que
So
habéis
I
estado
know what
haciendo.
you're gonna ask next. What's the weapon? Each Darkin is trapped in some super awesome weaponry. Please tell us what it is. We must know. And while I love watching you all squirm beneath my intricate yet vague champion roadmap teasers, I'm not gonna be that cruel today. The weapons are like the coolest part about Darkin after all.
Vale.
So this one was actually entrapped in a dagger.
Pues ya sabéis, Atros con una espada.
A
Varus con el arco.
Darkin dagger, of course.
Daga
because
oscura.
that's how that works. And
Caín
here's
con
what
la
it
hoz.
looks like. Ooh, so edgy, so dark.
Se parece a la de Pike.
And as to who or what got a hold of these daggers, well, you'll just have to wait and find out.
Aún tu puta madre.
Another thing a lot of people have been asking to see progress on is the
Es el arma del nuevo
that
Darkin.
we announced at season start. Well, the ASU team has been hard at work and is
Sí,
ready
lo
to
de
show
Ari.
some art. Close to complete, and the team is super excited to
Está
show
guapa
you
esta.
some of the progress on how she's looking.
Se ve mucho más Wall Rife y menos LOL PC.
Look at all those sweet polygons. And here's a sneak peek of her updated VFX. Ari still has a ton of skins that also need to be
Está muy
updated.
guapo. Eso,
So
eso
she
sí que me ha
still needs a
molado.
little
¿sabes?
more time in the Foxfire oven before we can get her in your hands. But you can expect to see her sometime early next year. So that's about it for Champions.
Hasta el año que viene no vamos a tener eso.
So I
Tío.
will leave you with one small thing. On top of wanting a new Darkin,
New Darkin,
we've seen a lot of players asking us to expand on Ixtal.
nuevo campeón de Ixtal, por cierto,
We've
creo.
also heard you asking for us to make a male
Creo que es un
enchanter.
support
Well,
de
I
Ixtal.
say, why not both? I'm happy to say we have right now, in very early development, a new male enchanter from Ixtal.
Bof, un hechicero,
The new champion will show a very different side of
Veremos.
Ixtal,
Ya
far
verás.
from the lavish palaces Kiana grew up in. So take a look at this art teaser that the team working on and put together.
Va a tener
Oh my
cosas,
God, they're so
cosas
adorable.
cutes.
Well, that's enough cuteness for now.
Va a tener cosas
So as
cutes también,
promised,
como el bardo.
Let's hear from Riot Froxon on the champion durability update and preseason.
Vale, vale, vale. Experiencia de juego de la nueva PRESEASON, gente. Se
Hey
viene.
everyone, I'm Matthew Long Harrison, aka Riot Froxon, lead
AKA.
game designer on the Summoners Rift team.
Diseñador jefe en el equipo de la Grita
We work on
Invocador.
things like balancing the game,
Vale,
in-game systems like the durability update and items, and preseason.
ok.
I've got a few things to cover today, so let's jump right into it. A few patches ago, we launched the champion
La
durability.
durabilidad, vale.
Our goal was to increase the durability and reduce the damage and healing of every champion in League.
Ajá.
We've been closely monitoring the results, and after some targeted adjustments, we're really happy with where the update landed. A lot
Sí,
of you have
nosotros también
mentioned how
estamos
much you
contentos
like
con
the
el resultado.
update, and that it feels good to have fights last longer with more chances for skill expression. And we're glad that it helped make League feel fresher. That said, we don't have plans to make changes of this size outside of preseason.
No piensan volver a hacer
unless
cambios
it's
así,
really necessary.
a no ser que sea necesario.
What we don't
Después de
want
3
is for
años
huge
pegándonos de
changes
hostias.
like this to disrupt League's competitive integrity, especially in the middle of the season. Speaking of which, let's talk about our
Pero es que
plans for
también
preseason.
tened en cuenta el competitivo, tío. Pretemporada, se viene.
Similar to last year, we're making
Se
more
viene.
targeted changes to various systems. Our multi-year goal is to
No
bring
metéis
everything
dragones,
in
tío, por
League
favor.
up
No
to
metéis
110
dragones ni ninguna
before doing
tontería así, por
updates on the
favor.
scale of runes reforged.
El
and
rol de
reforged,
jungla ya está muy
or
roto,
item
tío.
update again. So for this preseason, we're
Vale.
updating systems including communication and vision, making the jungle more exciting and accessible, and bringing back a familiar foe. Our communication system is showing its age, especially in comparison to some of our other games. So we're giving it some much needed attention with new features
Nuevos
that'll
pingueos,
make it
una
easier to
polla.
communicate with your team.
¿Nuevos pingueos?
The win.
Una polla, dime que sí, por favor.
To that, we're expanding our in-game ping system to allow for better communication. with
Let's
your team.
go, nuevos pings.
The current system only lets you share very basic communications. And while we appreciate your ingenuity with the limited pings you have, we wanted to give you more opportunity for clearer communication. The updated pings will include everything you
¡No te puedo creer!
plus expanded vision options. And
Vale, vale. Uno de Freeze.
we're also thinking about ways to emphasize
¡Hostia, qué guapo!
teammates, plan macro strategy
¡Qué
for
guapo!
objectives,
Uno de
and keep
Freeze.
track of where pings are on the map, even if they're off your screen. In addition to the changes to communication, we're making some small improvements to the vision system, as it's a bit outdated.
Hay uno de pokeo,
It's super
gente.
clear that you can swap vision
¿Vale?
trinkets, and it's definitely not clear how you can best utilize them. To that, we're exploring ways to make vision trinkets more intuitive. You'll be able to see how many wards you have on the map and preview where they'll
No
go.
te puedo creer que se van colocando solos. Una polla.
It's more painful parts. Our first change is improving buff sharing. Donating buffs to your laners is an important part of being a jungler, but it feels bad to lose the gold, experience, and bonuses they provide. We're exploring a bunch of things to make this more painless to junglers, like buffs leaving behind a little friend that also has a buff, and a few other potential directions. We're also looking at ways of improving jungle camp patience rules. The goal of this change is to make it so you don't get overly punished by accidentally pulling camps too far. You shouldn't have to know exactly what pixel to stand on to do red buff and raptors at the same time without one resetting.
Que sea más fácil empezar
So
a
we're making
jugar, vale.
changes that will make it less punishing when that happens.
Bufarles a la
We
jungla
have some
y
junglers
quiere
like to
ayudarles a
hyper-optimize
farmear.
their clears, and we want that knowledge to be
Muy bien,
rewarded.
chicos.
We'll still keep unique, optimal clears for different champions, like
No.
Kane's starting round's
No.
favorite Drake,
No.
the Chemtech Drake. While we're
No.
bringing Chemtech Drake back from the dead, she won't bring you back from the dead anymore.
No puede
Instead,
ser.
the new and improved Chemtech Soul grants more damage and
No, por
damage reduction
favor.
when you're low health.
Vale.
And when the Chemtech Drake takes over the rift,
Vale, a ver qué
plants on the
hace.
map mutate and
Más daño y
become
reducción de daño cuando queda poca vida.
Scry's bloom
Y cuando
will
llega la
grant
grieta,
speed when moving towards revealed enemies,
las plantas
and blast
mutan y
coverage
se
further than
potencian.
ever before, like from blue buff to mid lane. We still have other plans for preseason,
Oh.
including the usual updates and tweaks to and we'll share more information about our plans for these and everything we discussed today as we get close to preseason.
No puede ser.
That's all I have today. Thanks for watching, and let us know what you think about everything you heard. I'll hand things back to Reeve to say goodbye.
Thanks, Roxanne.
Es todo por
So,
mi
as you can
parte,
see,
dice
we
el
have
hijo
a
de
lot
puta,
of
tío.
exciting things in development.
Me cago en tus
And as
muertos,
always,
no haber
I've
hecho
had a
nada, tío.
blast Finally sharing all this cool stuff the team has been working
¿Qué
on with
cojones?
Wait. Uh-huh. Yeah? So I'm hearing that there is one last thing we forgot to show you
¿Cómo?
all. You all remember the skin line you voted for at the beginning of the year, right? I think it was the
De bien.
Gothic skin line revamp. Well, our skins team has been hard at work reimagining that skin line. And they really want to share a
Gothic
bit of it
aspect,
with you
okay.
now. So it's time for me to say goodbye. Bye. And time for all of you to see some sweet concept
La han
art for the
renovado, ¿no?
new Fright Night skins.
Arte conceptual de los nuevos aspectos. Noche de miedo se llama. Aquí tenemos a Draven, Noche de miedo, ¿vale? En el nuevo aspecto de League of Legends. Este es Draven, lo pondré aquí ahora. ¿No? Esta es Renata. Este es Urgot. Trandel. Y Annie. Poggers. Poggers. Poggers, gente. Está muy guapo, tío. Me hubiera gustado que lo hubieran hecho de otra manera, pero bueno. Aquí vemos a Draven, ¿vale? Draven Noche de Terror, ¿ok? Con motosierras en vez de hachas. Renata Noche de Terror, con el arma, aquí. El arma, lo que la acompaña y todo eso, ¿vale? Urgot Noche del Terror. Está muy guapo, tío. Está muy guapo.